Peace to you, my brothers and sisters. All praises to our Heavenly Father for another day that He has made. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank the Most High for giving us the opportunity to be alive and the opportunity to be keeping His commandment. I'm truly grateful, truly thankful. Let's do the law of the day. Let's meditate in the book of the law. So let's go into let's do Deuteronomy, maybe Deuteronomy chapter, let's see, Deuteronomy. I'm just gonna like randomly go through this. Okay, so I'm here, Deuteronomy chapter 24. Deuteronomy 24. Okay, this is gonna be interesting because I think I actually have a short video on this topic. Somebody had asked me a question maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, I do have a video on Coming Kingdom Broadcast, my other channel, on this topic. So this is where we are, Deuteronomy 24. I had no idea we're going to be coming to this. I just randomly came to this place and this is the topic. So let's do it. Let's go over this because it's actually a very interesting topic. So it says, when a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she found no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. So verse 1, when a man takes a wife, when a man marries a wife, and it come to pass, and then it happened that she finds no favor. She finds no favor in his eyes because he had found some uncleanness in her. So he found some uncleanness in her. I'm still reading. I'm not saying anything yet. I'm just reading what I'm reading. Because he had found some uncleanness in her. Then let me highlight that part. Let me highlight this. What the Bible is telling you we should do. So it said, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it to her, and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. Let me highlight the rest of the verse. Okay, because this, what I'm reading here, a lot of people are divorcing their wives, especially Christians, because of this verse. My brother, my sister, do you see Deuteronomy 24 from verse 1 to 4? This is one of the most misunderstood verse in the Bible, or verses. Do you know today there are people who, men and women equally, who are getting divorced because of this place, and their pastors will show them this place and say, look, you can divorce her. That's fine. It's okay. You can divorce her. Yeah, that's fine. I understand what you're going through. You can divorce him. You can actually divorce him. Come on, let me show you. Then they will show them Deuteronomy 24. Oh my goodness. This has nothing to do with that. And you will see. Let's keep going. So verse 1 says that if you marry a wife and you found some uncleanness in her, let me highlight that also. I'm going to highlight that with yellow or with pink. And you find some uncleanness in her. So the woman found no favor. So in other words, the man doesn't like the woman. So you marry a wife, you don't like her because you found some uncleanness in her. Then write her a bill of divorce and send her out of your house. That's what verse 1. That's what it seemed like verse 1 is saying. But I'm going to show you today that this is not verse 1 is saying. This is not what verse 1 is saying. This is not the verse. Deuteronomy 24 verse 1 is not telling you that if you marry a wife, it's not what it seems. It's not what it seems. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go. That's the worst part. The worst part is verse 2. The most misunderstood part is verse 2. Oh my goodness. Look at verse 2. And when she departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. She may go and be another man's wife. My brother, my sister, before I keep going, you see this verse? Let me highlight this verse. And I'm going to show you a verse that contradicts this. And it's interesting because, you know what? It's the Christians who will be fighting to follow this verse 2. You know, the Christians who say that the law is done away with. You know that Christians don't believe in like keeping the law, or you know, they say the law is done away with, right? But I'm going to show you something right now. Just watch. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 10 and 11. Let me show you something right now. 1 Corinthians 7, 10 and 11. Just watch this. Let me highlight this. It's really interesting. It's like beautifully interesting. Because in this particular thing I'm about to show you, Christians will never accept this. What I'm about to show you right now, from Paul the Apostles, Christians will not accept this. Christians will not accept this. It's like, no. They will say that, well, Paul said it back then. It was a particular congregation back then. That's who Paul was talking to. Okay, let's read it. 1 Corinthians 7, 10 and 11. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yah. Let not the wife depart from her husband. So this is not Paul telling you this. This is the Most High. The Bible translators, they put small, they put a little, smaller Lord. And it seems like it was Christ that was speaking. No, actually Christ spoke about this too. In Matthew 9, 31 and 32. Christ spoke about this too. Matthew chapter 9, 31 and 32. Matthew chapter 5. Yes, I'm going to show it to you. Just hold on. I'll show you what Christ said on this. So, I'm going to highlight that because I want to just to highlight the fact that Paul was not speaking here. Paul is telling you that a woman cannot leave her husband. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yah. Let not the wife depart from her husband. I wish I have some people here so I can ask you, why does he say that a woman cannot depart from her husband? Why? I wonder why. I wonder. And if you're listening to this, if you're watching this video, because this is live right now, I'm live on YouTube. So if you're watching this video, could you tell me why a woman cannot depart from her husband? Because that's what Paul is saying here. So remember what I'm trying to do. I've already shown you Deuteronomy 24, verse 2, where it said that a woman can go and become another man's wife. You see what's going on here? So there's a problem somewhere because you have Deuteronomy. Let's go back over there. You got Deuteronomy 24, verse 2. It says, and when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. When a woman leaves her husband's house after divorce, she might go and become another man's wife. And then I showed you that Paul spoke against that. And Paul did not only speak against that. I'm going somewhere with this, my brother and sister. Just relax. Relax. I'm going somewhere with this. But I'm showing you a pure contradiction. Here you have Deuteronomy 24 verse 2. Telling you that a woman can go and become another man's wife. And then here you have Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Verse 10 and 11. Telling you that a woman cannot become another man's wife. Literally. And I said, and unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband. So you cannot leave your husband. Look at verse 11. And if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. My brother, my sister, can you see the contradiction? Can you see? So what I just read is where the Torah, Deuteronomy 24, is telling you that if a man marries a wife and then he found some uncleanness in her, he is supposed to put her away. And when she is put away, she can go and become another man's wife. That is Deuteronomy 24 verse 2. And then here you see Paul saying no. Paul said no. First of all, don't leave your husband. Second of all, if you do leave your husband, you must never marry. Let's go down to verse 39. The same 1 Corinthians chapter. I'm going somewhere with this. Just relax, my brothers and sisters. Because I'm going to show you something here. You will see. Look at verse 39. Let me highlight that. Still on the same chapter. This is verse 39. Look at what it says. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. Now, this is one of those times that I do ask questions. So my question is going to be, which law? This is 1 Corinthians 7:39. The wife is bound by the law. The question is, which law? Which law is the wife bound by? Because last time I checked, they told us that the laws were done away with. The law has been done away with. So now it's saying that the wife is bound by the law. And I would love to ask Christians or ask anyone who doesn't believe in keeping the law, which law is Paul referring to? Which one? Because as of the time that Paul was making this statement, there was no Matthew, there was no Galatians, there was no Philippians, there was no Romans, there was no book of John, there was no Revelation when Paul was making this statement. All you got was Deuteronomy, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, and Isaiah, Jeremiah, all those prophets. That was all you have back then. So let me continue with this. As you can clearly see, it says that a woman cannot leave her husband. A woman cannot leave. Let me read that again. 1 Corinthians 7:39. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. The wife is bound by the law. The wife is bound by the law. Let me highlight that law. Because it's either Paul the Apostle was crazy, or those that say that he's speaking against the law is crazy. It says, the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in Yah. But she is happier if she so abide. After my judgment, I think I also have the spirit of Elohim. So here he's saying that a woman remain, a woman must, not that she can, she must remain by herself. That's what it's saying here. A woman must remain by herself as long as, as long as her husband is still alive. Even if they are no longer together, she still has to remain by herself. When her husband dies, then she's at liberty. Somebody else can marry her when her husband dies. So in other words, here Paul is saying that a woman is not free to be another man's wife. That's the point. Let's go to Romans chapter 7 also. Romans chapter 7 verse 1. Romans 7. It says, "Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law had dominion over a man as long as he liveth. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law had dominion over a man as long as he liveth." The law has dominion over the man as long as he liveth. Now look at verse 2. "For the woman which had a husband is bound by the law to her husband." Again, which law are we talking about? That a woman that has a husband is bound by the law to her husband. So as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. Verse 3. So if her husband dies, then she's no longer bound by that law. Verse 3. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. So again, here you see 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1 to 3. Paul is telling you that a woman is not free. She is not free to go and become somebody else's wife as long as her husband is alive. Paul is saying that a woman is not free to be another man's wife as long as her husband is alive. But if her husband dies, she can go and become another man's wife. She can go and become another man's wife if her husband dies. But as long as her husband is alive, she cannot go and become another man's wife. That's what Paul was saying in Romans chapter 7, 1 to 3, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 10 and 11, and also verse 39. So now let's get back to that law in Deuteronomy. Let's get back over there. Here, Deuteronomy 24. Let me start from verse 1 again. "And when a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she found no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house." So verse 1 is telling us that if you marry a wife and you found some uncleanness in her, get rid of her. Send her out. Look at verse 2. "And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and become another man's wife." So verse 2 is saying that when that woman that you send out of your house, when she leaves your house, she can go and become another man's wife. That's what this is saying, right? Let's keep going. Let's get to verse 3, because we're only doing from verse 1 to 4. Verse 3. "And if the later husband hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or if the later husband die, which took her to be his wife," verse 4, "her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after she is defiled. Let me highlight that word, defiled. After she is defiled. After she is defiled. For that is abomination before Yah, and thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which Yah your Elohim giveth thee for an inheritance. So the Most High is saying that if you marry a woman, that's verse 1. Verse 1, if you marry a woman and you see some uncleanness in her, you have to send her out. She cannot be your wife. Send her out. Verse 2 is saying that she can go and become another man's wife. Verse 3 is saying that if the second husband sends her out or dies, you, who was the first person to send her out, cannot take her back. You can't take her back. And if you do take her back, because she's defiled, if your wife goes and another man lay with your wife, if another man lays with your wife is defiled. You can no longer lay with your wife again. If you do that, you'll be defiling yourself because she's defiled. And the whole thing will become an abomination in the sight of the Most High. It's an abomination. It's disgusting in the sight of the Most High. She's defiled. And when you lay with her, after another man has lain with her, if you lay with her, you're defiling yourself. Now, my brothers and sisters, what I just read is King James. What I just read right now is the King James Version. Now, let me show you something at the New King James. I want to take you to the New King James Version and show you something. Let's go to the New King James, because I just read King James. Let's try to pull up. Let's pull this up. Let's go to New King James. Deuteronomy 24. Deuteronomy 24. Let's go to NKJV. Okay, just watch. This is going to be interesting. Okay, so Deuteronomy 24. I'm going to read the same thing I read in KJV. The same thing I read in KJV is what I'm about to read. And you see how it's going to tell you something completely different. The new KJV will tell you something different. So I'm going somewhere with this. I'm trying to show you something. And it's going to take... We're almost done, actually. We're almost done. Well, I'm almost there. I'm almost coming to make the point, because I'm trying to do a precept upon precept to piece the puzzle together so you can see the point. I pray that you remember what I read from KJV. So now I have come to New KJV, New King James Version, and I'm going to read from here. So verse 24, or chapter 24 of the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 24. Deuteronomy 24. From verse 1 to 4. It says, when a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens that she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, and send her out of his house. Look at verse 2. When she has departed from his house and goes and become another man's wife, if the later husband detects her and writes her a certificate of divorce, put it in her hand and send her out of his house, or if the later husband dies, who took her as his wife, then her former husband who divorced her must not take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled. For this is an abomination before Yah, and you shall not bring sin upon the land which Yah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. Okay, let me see how I can highlight this, because I need to highlight this. I don't know how, but I will try. I want to show you something, my brothers and sisters. Look at this. So, verse 2. Verse 2. Let me see how I can do this, because this is a little bit tricky. I don't know if you're going to be able to see what I'm about to show you right now. You see what it says in verse 2. It's not the same thing it says in King James. So the King James version is confusing people. The point that Moses was making here is that if you marry a wife and that woman you married, you find that she's unclean. In other words, another man have lain with her. Another man have had sex with her in the past. You have to send her out of your house. You have to send her out of your house. She cannot be your wife. But, look at verse 2. It says, when she has departed from his house and goes and become another man's wife. That is, if she goes and become another man's wife. Look at what it says in KJV. You see that it's not the same thing. Look at what it says in verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. This is a lie. This is mistranslation right here. You see this? Let me highlight this. You see where it says that she may go? She may go is a lie. This is an absolute lie. Complete absolute lie. You see where in verse 2 it said that she may go and become another man's wife. That's a lie. So whose wife is she gonna be? My brother, my sister, use your head. Use your sense. Let's go to Numbers chapter 15:15. Let me show you something. Numbers 15:15 and 16. Look at what it says. One law shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you. An ordinance forever in your generations. As you are, so shall the stranger be before Yah. One manner of law, one law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth with you. So my brother, my sister, the Most High is telling us in Numbers chapter 15 and 16, that the same law he gave to the Israelites also applies to non-Israelites. For how long? Forever. So the same law the Most High gave to the Israelites also applies to non-Israelites. That is Numbers 15 and 16. Forever. Let's get back to Deuteronomy 24. Let me read verse 2 again. You see that verse 2 in KJV is rubbish. This is garbage. Rubbish. This translation is wrong. KJV is wrong in this verse. In verse 2. Deuteronomy 24 verse 2. King James Version is wrong. Look at what it says. Now remember that the Most High said that the same law he gave to the Israelites applied to non-Israelites. So my brother, my sister, if the Most High says in verse 1 that when a man marries a wife and the man discovers that that woman is unclean, that woman is defiled, the man must put the woman away. This is not the only place that the Most High said that. Look at verse 22 from verse 13. Chapter 22 from verse 13, it says the same thing. Look here. Look at verse 13. I just want to show you what the Most High was saying in Deuteronomy 24. But I'm trying to use chapter 22 as an example, because the Most High said the same thing here. It says, Deuteronomy 22:13. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the token of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter to this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he had given occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. So the Most High is telling us here in Deuteronomy chapter 22, Deuteronomy 22 from verse 13 to 21, that when a man takes a wife and have sex with his wife for the first time, and then he discovers that the wife is not a virgin, he must speak up. He must put her away. You can't keep quiet and keep on living with her when you realize that she was not a virgin when you married her. That's what it's saying here. Now, I do realize that this is painful and uncomfortable for most of us. I totally understand that. But we have to focus on the word of Yah. We have to move on. We cannot look at faces. Okay, I'm not going to look at your face. I'm going to move on with the word of Yah. And what we have to do is that we have to repent. Okay? Okay. So, now, I have shown you from Deuteronomy chapter 22, from verse 13 to 21, that the Messiah said that if a man marries a wife, and that woman is not a virgin, you have to put her away. You have to accuse her of not being a virgin. And her parents will come and prove that she was a virgin when you married her. Her parents will come and prove that she was a virgin when you married her. And if you keep on reading in that Deuteronomy chapter 22, from verse 13 to 21, he said that if it cannot be proven that she was a virgin when you married her, then she must be killed, because she's supposed to be a virgin before she gets married. Every woman is supposed to keep their virginity until their wedding night, according to the law. Now, I know that that's not the reality today. That is not the reality, but that's our problem. That's not Yah's problem. This is not the problem of the Most High. This is our problem. Again, repentance is what we have to do. We have to go back to the law. Okay, so I have shown you from Deuteronomy chapter 22 that the Most High is saying that if you marry a wife and she was not a virgin, you have to put her away. Let's go back to chapter 24. So now we are back in chapter 24. And in this chapter 24 here, this Deuteronomy chapter 22, 24, again, the Most High said the same thing I just read in the chapter 22. In verse 1, Deuteronomy 24 verse 1. Deuteronomy 24 verse 1. Let me read that again. When a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she found no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it unto her, and give it to her, and send her out of his house. So again, the Most High is saying the same thing I read in chapter 22, that if a man marries a wife and she's not a virgin, or you find some uncleanness in her, that uncleanness is the fact that another man have laid with her. She's no longer pure. She now has the DNA of another man inside of her. That's what that uncleanness means. She now has the DNA of another man. The DNA of the man that took her virginity is now inside of her. So she's no longer pure. Somebody else's DNA is inside of her. In that case, she cannot be your wife. She's defiled. As you can see in verse 3. Verse 4, it said that she's defiled. Okay. Now, verse 2, Deuteronomy 24 verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. Let me remind you of Numbers 15:15 that I read. My brothers and sisters, I want you to just imagine within yourself, okay? Imagine that we all live in a city, and most people in that city keep the law. Most people in that city are obeying the Most High. Most people in that city are Israelites. And there are also some foreigners. We also have some non-Israelites that live in that city. So you and I and many others live in one city, and we are keeping the law of the Most High. But we also have some Indians. We also have some Asians. We also have some Europeans that live in that city. Well, my brother, my sister, according to Numbers chapter 15, 15 and 16, according to Numbers 15, 15 and 16, the same law that the Most High gave to you and I, the Israelites, also applies to the Chinese in that city, the Europeans in that city, the Indians in that city, right? According to Numbers 15, 15 and 16. As long as those strangers are around us, they must keep the law of the Most High, right? So the question is this. Look at verse 2. Look at verse 2 of Deuteronomy 24. Verse 2, Deuteronomy 24. The question is this. The Most High said that if a man marries a wife and realizes that that woman is unclean, she's been defiled, another man had been with her in the past, she's unclean. In verse 2, it said that when that man put her away and she departs, and when she is departed out of his house, it says she may go and be another man's wife. So the big question I want to ask, and I would like you to ask yourself and see if you can answer this question. My brother, my sister, if everybody is required to keep Yah's law, if everyone is required to keep Yah's law, both Israelite and non-Israelite, and this woman departs from the house of this man, who's going to be her husband? Who will be her husband? Remember that the man that married her put her away because she is unclean. Remember that. So her husband put her away because she is unclean. Right? Her husband put her away because she found her unclean. That means that she's defiled. That means that another man had been with her in the past. Another man had put his seed inside of her, his DNA through his sperm inside of her. So she's defiled. And then the man be like, I'm sorry, I cannot marry you. I can't do it. I can't marry you. Right? And then she departs from his house. The question now is, if a man put her out because she's defiled, because she's unclean, which other man is going to marry her? The answer is no. Nobody that fears the Messiah will marry her. So the point I'm trying to make here is that what you see in Deuteronomy 24 verse 2 in KJV is wrong. This is mistranslation. I wish I could have been able to show you the two chapters, the two verses side by side. Let me see if I can show it to you side by side. You see, this is Deuteronomy chapter 24 in the KJV version. This is KJV. Now let me show it to you in the new KJV, the New King James. Look at verse 2. When she has departed from his house and goes, what I want you to see is where it says and goes. It says and goes and become another man's wife. My brother, my sister. And goes and become another man's wife. It's not the same as, look at the KJV. Look at the King James Version. It says, she may go. So in the New King James, it says that if the woman leaves the man's house and goes and become another man's wife, that's what it says in the New KJV. In KJV, it says that she can go. She may go and become another man's wife. So according to King James Version, if a woman is put away by her husband because she was not a virgin, because she was already defiled by another man, and the man decides to put the woman away, according to King James Version, Deuteronomy 24 verse 2, that woman can go and become another man's wife. She can go and become another man's wife. That's what it's saying here. But if we read the same verse in the New King James is telling you something else. Look at verse 2. When she has departed from his house and goes, so my brother, my sister, she may go versus and go is not the same thing. King James Version is saying that she can go and become another man's wife. New King James verse 2 says that when she had departed from his house and goes. So the New King James, the KJV, is saying that she can go and become another man's wife. She can go and become another man's wife. That's what it says in KJV. The New KJV is saying that if she goes, that is, if she becomes another man's wife. So the New KJV is not telling you that she can go and become another man's wife. So that's the difference. So the point here, and I apologize for the long explanation, but this verse is very, very complicated in the sense that they made a mistranslation in KJV and they corrected it. And I give them credit for correcting it. The people that translated the King James Version, they made a mistake. They are saying that a woman can go and become another man's wife. She can go and become another man's wife. That's what this translation is saying. She can go and become another man's wife. But the New KJV is not saying that. The New KJV is saying something completely different. The New KJV is saying something absolutely different. The New KJV is saying that if she goes and become another man's wife. And the whole point of this Deuteronomy 24 is actually verse 4. The only reason why Moses was saying all this, the only reason why the Most High was saying this through Moses is because of verse 4. Look at what it says in verse 4. Verse 4. Then her former husband who divorced her must not take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled. For this is an abomination before Yah, and you shall not bring sin on the land which Yah your Elohim is giving you. So my brother, my sister, just ask yourself, why will King James Version and the New King James Version contradict each other? It's understandable if King James Version is saying something different from NIV, New International Version. They are not the same, right? They are two different companies. They are two different Bible translations, right? They are two different Bible translations. So you and I will not be surprised if King James Version is saying one thing and NIV is saying something different, or GNT, Good News Translation, is saying something different from KJV. We wouldn't be surprised, right? And as a matter of fact, that is actually why we do look at them, right? We look at them, we try to look at multiple translations because we know that they do contradict each other, right? But the question I really want to ask you, my brother, my sister, ask yourself, why will the New King James Version contradict the King James Version? Why? Let me tell you the answer to that question. You see this right here? You see this in KJV? They made a mistake. It was a pure mistake. What you see here in verse 2 was a mistake. They translated it that if a man puts away his wife because he considers her to be unclean, because another man have lain with her, and the man decides to put the woman away, the mistake that they made, and I call it mistake. The reason why I call it mistake is because they corrected it in the New KJV. Okay? The New King James Version was an update of the King James Version. So I am not mad at them. I'm not. I respect them. I respect those that translated this thing for the fact that they corrected their mistake. They corrected it. So the unfortunate thing here is that you now have a lot of people who get married. You know, a lot of women who are married and then they have issue with their husband, and then they go on to leave their husband and go become another man's wife. And they normally quote Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 2. In King James Version, it says that yes, it says that she can go and become another man's wife. She may go and become another man's wife. That's what it says in KJV. But if you look at the New King James, it's telling you that if she goes and become another man's wife, and the former husband cannot take her back. So you see, Deuteronomy 24, right? This is Deuteronomy 24, from verse 1 to 4. The reason why we have these verses is because of verse 4. Verse 4 is the main verse. Verse 4, Deuteronomy 24 verse 4 is the main verse. Because the point here, the point that was being made, and what the Most High is trying to tell men, what the Most High is trying to tell men is that if another man lay with a woman, you cannot lay with her again. From verse 1, if another man already laid with a woman, verse 1 is telling you, if another man is already laid with a woman, and you find out, you can't be with that woman. That's 1. Verse 4 is telling you that if another man lay with your wife, you can never lay with your wife again because she's defiled. So that's the reason why Moses was even saying this in the first place, to warn men, If another man lay with your wife, you can never lay with her again. You can never lay with her again. So let me give you an example, 2 examples, and then I will close. I'm going to give you 2 biblical examples of men that found themselves in this situation. Let's do the book of let me start with the one that you're more familiar with. Let's go to Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. So Matthew chapter 1, 18 and 19. It says, now the birth of Yahushua, or the birth of Yahushua HaMashiach, the birth of Christ, was on this wise. When his mother Mary was espoused, that is betrothed, was espoused or betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, so before they had sex, before they came together, that means before they had sex, she was found with child of the Holy Ghost. So before they could come together, she was found with a child. Before they could have sex, she became pregnant, right? Look at the next verse, verse 19. It says, then Joseph, her husband, being a just man and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privately. Again, I would have loved to ask a question right now. I would have loved to ask you a question. Why does it say that Joseph does not want to make a public example of her? Why does the Bible say that? It said that she was betrothed to him. She was espoused to him. And before they could come together sexually, she became pregnant. So Joseph decided to put her away. Privately. And he did not want to make a public example of that. Let me show you why he says that. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. Deuteronomy 22. Look at what it says. Deuteronomy 22, verse 20. But if this thing be true, and the token of virginity be not found for the damsel, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her with stones, that she die, because she had wrought fully in Israel. She had wrought folly in Israel to play the whore in her father's house. So shall thou put evil away from among you. So if a girl gets married and it cannot be proven that she was a virgin before her wedding night, if it is shown that a girl has lost her virginity before getting married, that girl must be killed according to the Most High. Deuteronomy chapter 22, 13 to 21. That girl must be killed. So that is why it says here that in Matthew chapter 1, 18 and 19, it says that before they could come together, Joseph and Mary, she became pregnant. Verse 19, Matthew 1:19, Joseph decided to privately put Mary away. He decided to privately put Mary away, not wanting to make public example of Mary, because all Joseph could have done is to say, hey, this woman was not a virgin when I married her. She was not a virgin. I can't marry her. She's lost her virginity. And there will be an investigation by the elders. And if it turned out that she had had sex before marriage, like if she turned out that she's no longer a virgin, it's a death sentence. It is death sentence for a girl to lose her virginity among the Israelites, according to the Most High. Deuteronomy 22, 13 to 21. Okay, so now, the reason why I brought you to the book of Matthew chapter 1 is because here you clearly see that Joseph wanted to put Mary away because he assumed that Mary was no longer a virgin. He thought that Mary was no longer a virgin. And he decided to put Mary away. Okay? Because Joseph knows what the Most High say in Deuteronomy 24. Joseph had Deuteronomy 24. Joseph understood that if you marry a wife and she was not a virgin, you have to put her out. Joseph understood that you cannot marry a woman if another man have already lain with her. You don't go there. You don't mess with that. You don't go defile yourself with another man's DNA. Because each time a man lays with a woman, the man, through his sperm, puts his DNA inside of that woman. That's a fact and has also been scientifically proven. It has scientifically been proven. If you want to contact me and I will send you a link to download the study. It's been scientifically proven that each time a man has sex with a woman, he is depositing his DNA inside of that woman. I do have the study, a secular study, not even a biblical study, a secular study, a scientific study that have proven it. So that's what the Bible was telling you, that she's defiled. The woman is defiled because if I'm having sex with you, each time I have sex with you, I'm putting my DNA inside of you. That's why you see all these men that are being arrested. These men that committed rape in the 1970s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. They committed rape. There was the DNA technology back then was not what it is right now. So a lot of men are being locked up. Men are being locked up right now. Look it up on YouTube. Look it up on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in a rapist caught through DNA testing. Rapist DNA testing. You know, so men are being caught because they raped a woman in the 1980s, 1970s, 1990s. They raped women and then they got away for 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. They got away, you know, and then eventually they get caught up because of their DNA, because they leave their sperm by the woman, and then the police will collect the clothes and keep the clothes. And then now those sperm are being tested, and these men are being arrested now. There are videos on YouTube, news reports on YouTube on this. So each time a man lay with a woman, that man is putting his DNA inside of that woman. So that's why Joseph decided, oh no, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, she was not a virgin. Oh no. And he decided to quietly put her away because he knows that he cannot marry her in that case. So that's one example. Let me give you another example. Let's go to the book of Jubilees. Let's go to the book of Jubilees, chapter 33. The book of Jubilees. We're going to go to chapter 33. Jubilees 33. It's where we're going. The book of Jubilees. I'm going to go all the way to chapter 33, verse 8 and 9. Jubilees 33, 8 and 9 is what I want to show you. You see a similar situation where, so it says, Jubilees chapter 33, Reuben laid with Belial, and he uncovered his father's skirt. So what happened here? Let me just explain, and I would like you to look into it yourself. It's a wonderful book. I just Googled it. What I did is to Google it. That's what I did. You can Google it, or you can contact me and I'll send it to you on PDF. So what happened here? Let's go down to verse 8 and 9. So what happened was that Reuben raped Belial. Reuben raped his father's wife. He raped her. He had sex with her. No man had ever touched her except her husband, sexually. The only man that had known her was her husband, Jacob. So her husband had traveled. Her husband traveled, and after her husband had traveled, Reuben saw her taking shower. Reuben saw her taking shower and went and raped her that night. The night he saw her taking shower. He saw her taking shower in the daytime. You can read the story right here in Jubilees chapter 33. So she was taking shower. This man happened to see her taking shower. He got aroused. He began to lust after her. He waited until nighttime, and then he went over there. He sneaked into her room, her house, and raped her. So after raping her, she was devastated. She was devastated because of that rape. And then by the time she realized what was going on, he already raped her because it was at night and there was no light. It was dark. It was at night and it was dark. So he raped her. And then after raping her, her husband came back. And then her husband, Jacob, the father of the Israelite, tried to have sex with her. She said this to her husband. Look at what she said to her husband. Verse 8 and 9. Jacob was exceedingly wroth with Reuben because he had lain with his father's wife. Jacob was angry at Reuben because he had lain with Belial. Because he had uncovered his father's skirt. Let me start from verse 7. I'm going to start from verse 7 to cover what I just said. So when Jacob came back, because Jacob had traveled, when he returned, he traveled with his other wife. When he returned from the travel, he tried to have sex with Belial, which is his wife. So that's verse 7. And when Jacob returned and sought her, she said to him, Belial said to him, I am not clean for you. I am not clean for you. My brother, my sister, do you remember what I showed you? Let me go back to it. I don't have to say it. Let me go back to it. Let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 24. Look what it says in verse 1. When a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she found no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her. Then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it to her hand and send her out of his house. So the key word here is uncleanliness. So if you marry a woman and if it turns out that another man had lain with the woman before you, that's uncleanliness. Let's go back to the book of Jubilee. So when Jacob had returned from that travel, he tried to have sex with his wife. The wife told him in verse 7, when Jacob returned and sought her, she said to him, I am not clean for you. Why is she not clean for you? That's the question I would have asked you if we're doing this thing. If you're here with me right now, or if I have people here with me, I would have asked you this question. Why does he say that that I'm not clean for you because another man had lain with her. Another man had lain with her. So she said to her husband, I am not clean for you, for I have been defiled. For I have been defiled as regards you. For Reuben had defiled me and has lain with me in the night, and I was asleep and did not discover until he uncovered my skirt and slept with me. So this is what this woman was telling her husband. Now compare this to what's happening today. Compare this to what is happening today. Men and women are doing this thing alike. Today, a woman will have a husband and somebody else will still be having sex with her. Today, you have women that have husbands and then another man will have sex with her in secret, and then she will still come home and later her husband will have sex with her. That thing kills a man. That thing destroys a man. It destroys the DNA or the immune system of that man. Because say for example, there's a woman and her name is, let's say for example, her name is Martha, or her name is I don't want to call the name of someone I know. I want to just give you a pure example. So let's say there's a woman, her name is Eve, for example. There's a woman, her name is Eve. Eve, right? And Eve is Adam's wife. So Adam goes to work. I and Eve get together and I lay with Eve. When I lay with Eve, through my sperm, my DNA have gone into Eve's body. My DNA. If you don't know what a DNA is, go study it. It's very interesting because everybody has a unique DNA. Everyone has a unique DNA. If I drink water and drop the cup and disappear, you can find me through my DNA. Everybody has a unique DNA. So it's like your fingerprint. So if I go and lay with Eve, after laying with Eve, and we do it in secret, and nobody saw us, later on Adam comes back, and Adam and Eve lay together, that thing is going to affect Adam negatively because my DNA have gone inside Eve. So if Adam lay with Eve, Adam is destroying himself because another man have lain with her. She's, according to the Bible, she's now defiled. That's what this woman is saying over here. Let me read it again. And when Jacob returned and saw her, she said to him, I am not clean for you, for I have been defiled as regards you. For Reuben had defiled me and lain with me in the night, and I was asleep and did not discover until he uncovered my skirt and slept with me. Look at verse 8. And Jacob was exceedingly wroth with Reuben, because he had lain with Bilhah, because he had uncovered his father's skirt. Now look at verse 9. I brought you here because of verse 9. Look at verse 9. And Jacob did not approach her again, because Reuben had defiled her. So Jacob never lay with his wife ever again. Jacob never laid with his wife again. Brother, sister, that's not what I'm telling you. What I just read is not what I'm telling you. This is not my opinion. This is biblical. This is scripture. The scripture is showing you that a man raped one of the wives of Jacob. And Jacob from that day on never had sex with her ever again. Jacob never had sex with his wife ever. Why? Because she was defiled. So these things, these scriptures and precepts that I just went over now is to explain that Deuteronomy chapter 24, which is our main scripture. This is our main scripture. So what Moses was telling you here, what Moses was telling you in Deuteronomy 24, 1-4, is that, number one, if you marry a woman and then you find out, before you have sex with her, you find out that another man had already had sex with her, you cannot live with that woman. You have to put her away. If you ignore this fact, if you know that other men have slept with her, and then you keep on living with her and sleeping with her, you are destroying your body biologically, health-wise, because she has the DNA of those men that have been with her, and it's going to make you die younger. You're destroying your immune system. You will not live long. You will not live long. This is one of the reasons why we don't live long. This is one of the reasons why we have all this cancer, all this disease that we have today. And even the Gentiles, I would love to send you that study. In fact, let me show it to you. Let me show it to you, because this is I can actually show it to you. Let's go back to Google. Let me show you the study. So we'll come back to Google, and we're going to Google this. This is what you have to type into Google to see the study. Okay, we'll come back to Google. We'll clean this up. Let's clean this up. So let's type in sex changes a woman's behavior. You see what I'm typing in? Sex changes a woman's behavior. That's what I'm about to Google. That's what you're going to Google to find this study. A secular study from a university in Britain, in London or Britain. So let's Google this. You see the first one that comes up? Medical News Today. Medical News Today. I Googled sex changes a woman's behavior. This study was from 2012. It was posted in 2012. Let's click on that. Sex can cause genetic changes in women. Okay, so now we are in this medical news website. It says, sex can cause genetic changes in women. Written by Sarah Glenn on September 12, 2012. Sensational female response can be triggered by the activation of diverse sets of genes from sex, including immunity, libido, altered fertility, and eating and sleep patterns. So let me try to go straight. You can come and get this study and read it yourself. I Googled it. You can Google it and find it. Let me go to the conclusion for the sake of time. For the sake of time, look at the conclusion that they have made in this scientific study that proves Genesis chapter 2, that tells you that when a man marries a woman, the two becomes one. When a man marries a woman, the two becomes one. Why? Because if I have sex with a woman, I'm putting my DNA inside that woman. And this, let's see what the study found. Let's see what this study had found. It says, researchers identified significant changes to genes, that is in women. They found these changes in women. They found these changes in women. Now watch this. Watch this. Researchers identify researchers identify significant changes to genes linked to early embryogenesis, egg development, neutral sensing, behavior, phototransduction, the pathway by which they see. Oh my goodness. But the pathway by which they see. Look at the next line. This demonstrated that females' behavior and reproductive system is affected by a direct global influence of males. In other words, semen, the semen protein, is a master regulator. The semen protein is a master regulator. So the semen, of course, you know what a semen is. Semen is sperm. A semen is another word for sperm. So a man's sperm changes a woman's early embryogenesis, changes her egg development, nutrient sensing, her behavior, and the way she sees things. The pathway by which they see. The pathway by which they see. The pathway by which they see. This is incredible. This is incredible. So when I saw this study, I thought I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw this study, because Gentiles do not do studies like this. Gentiles promote sex. They promote having free sex. You can have sex with whoever you want. I couldn't believe this study. I was like, this has to be fake. So I looked into it a little bit more. And it turned out that it was from a university. Let me find the name of that university where they scientifically did this study. They put the name of the university here. I'm going to get to it. I'm looking for the name of the university in the UK where they did this study. Okay, so I'm going to find the name of the university. I think it's somewhere here. And I actually had to go Google to see if that school is true. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe that Gentiles would put a study like this out. So even me, myself, had doubt that this is a real study. So I saw the name. It says, a team of researchers from the University of East Anglia set out to determine the response female fruit flies have to mating. So let's Google the name of this university, because I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw this study, because this study is telling you that when a man has sex with a woman, the man's sperm begins to change her behavior. The woman's behavior is changed. A woman's behavior is changed when a man has sex with a woman. So if I'm having sex with a woman, her behavior begins to change. The way she sees things begins to change. So now you realize why there was not jealousy in the ancient times. When you read your Bible, you see in Genesis chapter 28, Genesis chapter 29, you see all these women, who are finding wife for their husbands. You see Sarah finding in Genesis chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16, you see these women that are giving their husbands wives. These women that was pushing for their husband to get another wife. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it's not. It was not a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale, because what it was is this. Let me tell you what it is. If I have sex with a virgin who has never been with another man, she has never been with another man. According to this study, right, my DNA through my sperm begins to change her behavior and the way she sees things, the way she views the world, the way she sees things. Her behavior begins to change. Even her eggs her reproductive system begins to change. So she begins to see things more, because my DNA is changing her DNA. My DNA is manipulating her DNA. My DNA is changing her DNA. So her behavior is now being changed because of my sperm coming inside of her body. This is incredible. This is incredible. Amazing, 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 amazing. My DNA is changing her DNA. She now begins to see the world from my perspective. So you now have less jealousy, because in a way, that's why the book of Genesis tells you that the two becomes one. The two becomes one. The two, when a man marries the woman and start having sex with her, the two becomes one flesh. So let's look up this university and see if it's real, because I was shocked. Web search. So it says postgraduate thought degrees. So this is an advertisement for that university. So this is their website. University of East Anglia. University of East Anglia. Anglia. It says the University of East Anglia is a home for everyone, a champion of interdisciplinary that stands for equal opportunity in higher education. So it's a real university. This is their website. It's a real university. So now I was thinking to myself, how can the Europeans allow a study like this? How can the Europeans allow a study like this to come out? A study that shows that whenever a man is having sex with a woman, you know, when a man starts having sex with a woman, his DNA begins to change. You know, her DNA begins to change, or his DNA begins to change her behavior. Like, I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe that this study was real, but it was real. This study was real. You see, life-changing research. This study was real. So, going back to the scripture, that's what the Most High was trying to say. That basically, I know that this is going to be painful. This is going to be very difficult for a lot of my sisters. Lots and lots of women who are trying to obey the Most High, who are trying to walk in His way. This is going to be very painful for you guys. I totally understand. I totally get it. But the truth shall be told. I have to tell the truth. Most preachers do not preach these things because they themselves are guilty of this. We have to tell the truth. So, what the whole point of this law in Deuteronomy 24 is that if I marry a woman and then I found out that somebody else already had sex with her, I'm supposed to put her away. Because that man that had sex with her in the past have already put his DNA inside of her. And his DNA is already changing her behavior. So she's behaving more like that man that had sex with her. So let me bring it home to you and I today. I want to bring it home to you and I. What this study is showing and what the Most High is saying from the scripture we saw is that if I marry you today, but you've already lost your virginity in the past, you lost your virginity to a man, your behavior, according to this study and according to scripture, your behavior will now be more in line with that man that took your virginity. And you, as a woman, has no control over this. This is how the Most High designed it. The Most High designed it this way. This is how the Most High designed this. He designed it this way. You have no control over this. I have no control over this. When a man's sperm comes inside your body, that man's sperm will begin to change your behavior. You cannot stop this. There's nothing you can do about it. If my sperm comes into your body, my sperm begins to change your behavior. The first one that comes in, the first man that takes your virginity, the man that takes your virginity, So what happens in that case is that you now reason more like that man. Eventually, you begin to reason like that man. Eventually, you begin to see things like that man. So if I marry you and I find out that, oh no, somebody have already been with you, I am supposed to say no. I'm so sorry, I can't marry you because you've already been with another man. Because you already think you're going to be thinking like that man eventually that put his sperm inside of you. You're going to be thinking like him, right? You'll be reasoning like him. You'll be thinking like him. So if I ignore scripture, ignore the Most High, ignore the scientific study, right? If I ignore this scientific study, right? If I ignore it, now let me tell you what's going to happen, and you will see that this is what you're seeing today. What's going to happen if I ignore this as a man? I showed you Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 and 19, right? With Joseph. It tells you in Matthew chapter 1. I read it earlier. It shows you that Joseph decided to put Mary away. Because Joseph understood what I'm telling you right now. Joseph understood this. So if I say that is all nonsense, that's Old Testament, and then you show me this study, and I look at this university study here, right? And I'll be like, just Gentiles. And then I go on to marry Eve or marry that woman, whoever that person is. I gave you an example, and I wanted to give you an example, right? If I marry that woman and we live together, here's the truth. Subconsciously, there will always be fight between us. That woman is going to be fighting and struggling to have normal relationship with me. I am going to be fighting and struggling to have, we're going to be trying hard to make it work. We're going to be trying. But we will never become one. Because the man that she was with in the past, or the men that she was with in the past, their DNA have taken root inside of her and begins to change her behavior. And there's nothing she can do about this, right? So this is why you see so much friction between husbands and wives today. This is why you have so much divorce. This is why there's so much jealousy. Because the two are not one. I don't care if the Pope officiated your wedding. I don't care. It doesn't matter if the Pope officiated your wedding. It doesn't matter. This is biology. This is biblical. This is why today there's so much. Most husbands and wives today, they're like cat and mouse. They are, they keep on struggling to maintain their marriage until eventually it collapses. Because the two cannot become one. Because her system has already been occupied by someone else. So me coming in and putting my DNA inside of you, right? That system has been occupied already. So you're not gonna all of a sudden start reasoning like me, even though that's the will of the Most High. Genesis chapter 2. The two becomes one. The two, you are not supposed to become one. But that can only happen if your system is empty. If your system is empty and available, then I'll come and put my seed. My seed will begin to take root inside of you. That's my DNA. The way that the Most High designed it, your behavior will now begin to align with my behavior. You also begin to see things the way I see things. So that if maybe you hate yellow colors, you don't like yellow colors, and then let's say we want to buy a house, or I buy a car and I come back home with a car, and that car is yellow. It's a yellow color. Subconsciously, you will begin to like yellow color without even realizing it. Why? Because I like yellow color. I know this sounds crazy, but this is reality. This is biology. This is biblical. Most preachers don't even know this. And if they do know it, they will not preach it because of their current situation. But the truth of the Most High has to be told. Somebody has to bring this out. And the Most High is bringing it out. I'm just a vessel. So, again, let me use Middle East as an example. Middle East. There was a study that came out. There was a study that came out from Middle East, from Pakistan. And you can find that study on Google. You can find it online. It's about divorce rate. Divorce rate in Pakistan. Let me see if I can find that study. But it's like it has all this graph and charts. The point of that study is that women that got married as virgins, there is 1% chance of divorce. They did a study in Pakistan. They found out that women that got, I think it was the university or something in Pakistan or something like that, but it's a very well-respected study. It's a very, I came across that study and people were talking about, somebody was talking about it or whatever. So the study shows that women that was virgin, the group of women that got married as virgins, among them, so they looked at the divorce rate. According to the divorce rate, those that was married as virgins, there's about 1% divorce rate among them. So let's say there's 300,000 women in Pakistan that got married when they were virgins. Among them, the divorce rate is 1%. Then they also did the next group. Those that was with one man, they already lost their virginity with one man before they got married. They found out that the divorce rate was a little bit higher, but not much. It was not that much, but a little bit higher. I think maybe about 3% divorce rate or something like that. Then the next group of people, those that have been with like 4 men, I think it was like 4 men before they got married, 4 different men. So the higher they go with the body count, the higher the divorce rate. The higher they go, now you're itching up to 60% divorce rate. This was a totally independent, separate study from the one I showed you. This one I showed you is from the UK. The other one is from Pakistan. So, on seeing all this, even me myself was a little bit surprised. Because this is something that I've already kind of known. The Most High, through His Spirit, I kind of have this idea already. Yeah, I've put it inside of me, but there was no evidence. So seeing all these, studies and evidence that are showing this thing is really amazing. I would say that it blew my mind. It's just that I'm not doing enough to bring these things out. I should be making videos on these things and bringing it out. Because these men are destroying themselves. So, I guess for those of you who are maybe wondering, why is it that Brother Tobiah don't have a wife? This is it right here. This is part of the main reason why I don't have a wife. Like I'm pretty much a bachelor. And I'm terrified. I swear, I'm telling you. I swear I am scared. I am so scared of, like, laying with a woman who has already been with another man. Because I don't want to die. I know this may sound crazy, but I'm really, really scared. Yah knows my heart. If I tell you I'm not scared, I'm lying. I'm not lying to you right now. Like, I'm telling you, I am terrified. You know? So at some point, you're like, you know what? Forget it. let me just focus on serving Yah. Let me just focus on the word of Yah and just serving the Most High. And in the beginning, it was very difficult for me, you know. But eventually, Yah was able to make it easier for me. You know, I don't really worry much about it like as I used to in the past, you know. So my priority, my focus right now is serving the Most High and keeping His commandment and serving Him. That's my priority right now. So, but in terms of, I would rather die by myself, die alone, than to, you know, lay with a woman that has been with other men. Not because that woman is a bad person. No, this is not about the woman. This is not about you. Because all of us are victims. That's how I see it, actually. You know, when I look at this whole thing, I'm thinking that we're all victims, both the men and the women. We're all victims. What do I mean that we're all victims? We're all victims because of our ancestors. Because most of us, if we were taught these things as children, we would have kept ourselves pure. Most of us would have kept ourselves, just like you see in the Middle East. Just like in the Middle East, you know? So, but we were not taught these things. We go into captivity, we begin to live like the Gentiles. So oftentimes we discover these things later in our lives when we've defiled ourselves. You know, if I had known this thing, I would not have done the things I've done in the past. I regret the fact that I have been I've defiled myself, actually. I have. Just like what you're seeing in this study. I have defiled myself. I have been with someone like that. And looking back now, I wish I could go back and change time and not do what I had done. Because I've defiled myself. But now that I know the health consequences, the biological consequences, and the health problems that can come as a result of defiling myself, I feel terrible. I feel horrible. You know, I feel so horrible. I wish I could go back and not do what I had done, because I have been in a situation where I have been with a woman who is in that situation, you know, and that means I defiled myself, you know. So all of us, we're all victims, because most of us have no idea who we are. We don't know we're Israelite. We don't know about these things. We have the Gentiles who are championing sex, championing free sex, championing dressing sexy, championing all this, championing whoremongering. And then later on, like right now, we're now beginning to see these things and begin to see the consequences, and the Most High is opening our eyes. And it's devastating. It's really devastating. You know, in the past, I would have been doing this teaching with anger. In the past, if you know me, you know, years ago, I would have been doing this in anger and blaming the women. But that is foolish of me to do that. Because if I want to be honest, who is supposed to do the teaching? Is it the women that are supposed to do the teaching? Isn't it us, the men? Aren't we the ones that are supposed to teach our daughters and teach our sons? And if we do teach our daughters and sons, then they are most likely not to go on that path, that destructive path, you know, sexually. So the older I get and the older I get spiritually, the Most High is giving me wisdom and I see things a little bit differently now. So when I do this study, I don't do it with anger anymore. I do it with sadness, because even within my own life, I wish I could go back and change things. You know, the about 2 or 3 times that I've defiled myself, I honestly wish I could go back and change it, just change the whole, like, and just change that thing to be pure. I would have loved to be pure, but unfortunately, that's not the case. That is not the case at all. But considering all these things, again, knowing what I know now, if I keep quiet because some sisters are going to become offended or some brothers are going to become offended, that's not good either. So that means I'm following the path of our ancestors. Our ancestors did not teach us these things. We went into captivity. So who is going to teach it? So I bring these things out. I bring it out knowing fully well that a lot of people are not going to like it. A lot of people will not like it. But I bring it out because we need to know about these things. We have to repent. The worst thing we could do is to ignore this. The result is always coming out. That's why we die like chickens. We don't live long anymore. We're all defiled out. We're disgusting in the sight of the Most High. So we have to face this. If you go to Hebrews, Ezra chapter 10, Ezra, the regular Ezra in your Bible, chapter 10, from verse 1, you see that when the Israelite was in Babylon, they married foreign women. We're not supposed to marry foreign women. We're not supposed to marry Chinese. We're not supposed to marry Indians. We're not supposed to marry Europeans. We're supposed to only marry from our own people. Israelites are supposed to marry Israelites. Indians are supposed to marry Indians. Europeans are supposed to marry Europeans. This is the will of the Most High. And our ancestors in Babylon was marrying foreign women like you see today. Michael Jordan and all these men who are marrying European women. Dave Chappelle, all these people marrying foreign women. They're not supposed to do that. That's a whole different study. Because the DNA of these nations are different from our DNA. Their DNA is different. A Chinese is supposed to mate with a Chinese. European is supposed to mate with a European. When Michael Jordan, or when whoever that person is, I'm just using the names of people that you know, when they go and marry a foreign woman, you're jeopardizing your health. Her DNA is different from your DNA. Interracial marriage is an abomination in the sight of the Most High. Interracial marriage is sin. You could go read Jubilees chapter 30 to see that. Jubilees chapter 30. The book of Jubilees chapter 30, the whole chapter. The Most High hates that. There will never be forgiveness for any man that marries Gentiles, or for any woman that becomes, that goes to, this is terrible. But that's a different study. So, there's a place I could have taken you in the book of Proverbs, but I think I will keep that for another time, because it talked about a man defiling himself. It was a warning to men not to defile themselves. There's a place right here, Proverbs chapter 6. It talks about a man not defiling himself. There was a warning. Let me see if I can throw that in. So if I can throw it in before I close, because I've stayed in this study for a long time. But this is important to. I didn't even plan to do this. I didn't even plan to do it like this. So, but there's very, very few study like this out there. There's very, very few study, very few study like this out there. So this is Proverbs chapter 6. Let me just throw this in. I thought about just keeping this scripture, keeping this one away from this study. I thought about not including this. I thought about it. I'm like, don't read this. Don't read this. Keep this for another time. For another study, you could read this. But then the Spirit pushed me to read it. This is a warning to men. It says, "My son, obey your father's command. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. Keep their words in your heart. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, their counsel will lead you. When you sleep, they will protect you. When you wake up, they will advise you. For their command is a lamp, and their instruction a lamp." So let's get down to verse 24. That's where what I want to show you from verse 24. Look what it says. Proverbs chapter 6 from verse 24. It says, talking about the instructions of your parents, the instructions of your parents, or the instructions of the Most High. It says, "It will keep you from immoral woman. It will keep you from immoral woman, from the smooth tongue of a promiscuous woman." The Most High told you to honor your mother and your father. That's a commandment from the Most High. If you obey the Most High, that obedience will keep you from an immoral woman, from the smooth tongue of a promiscuous woman. Don't lust for her beauty. Don't lust for her beauty. Don't let her coy glances seduce you. For a prostitute will bring you to poverty, but sleeping with another man's wife will cost you your life. You do realize that what I'm reading here is not out of context. This place in Proverbs chapter 6 is 100,000% in line with this study. Because the man that takes a woman's virginity is her husband in the sight of the Most High. It doesn't matter what the Most High don't care what we think. What we think does not matter. And what we think will never matter. What you and I think will never matter to the Most High. What he thinks is what matters. So he's not going to tell us something and then we'll come and change it. And then he'll be okay with that. Hell no. So according to the Most High, the man that takes a woman's virginity becomes her husband. It says, verse 26. Verse 26. For a prostitute will bring you to poverty, but sleeping with another man's wife will cost you your life. Why? Because another man's wife has the DNA of her husband. Her husband has been loading her up with his DNA through sperm ever since they got married. The more they live together, the closer they become. The more they live together, the more he loads her up with his DNA through sperm. So this woman is loaded up with her husband's DNA. Oh my goodness, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. Almost on a weekly basis, if I want to be fair, I will say weekly. We know that it's almost like every other night. He's putting his DNA inside of her through sperm, through sex. So her behavior, the way she sees things, everything is all lined up. Everything is, so she's like, that's why it's warning you. When you go mess with her, your life will not be long. Your life will not be long. That's why it says, but sleeping with another man's wife will cost you your life. Verse 27. Can a man scoop a flame into his lap and not his clothes catch on fire, you man, you go get on top of another man's wife, you're not going to get away with that. Oh, no. You're going to enjoy it, actually. Like, there's no doubt about that. There will be pleasure. You will enjoy it. But what happens after that? You're defiling yourself because she has her husband's DNA inside of her. You're defiling yourself. So there's a question here. Can a man scoop up a flame into his lap and not have his clothes catch on fire? Verse 28. Can he walk on hot coals and not blister his feet? I don't have to explain this. I don't even have to explain these questions. I pray that you will understand what the question is. Can somebody walk on fire, on charcoal, and not get his feet burned? Verse 29. So is it with the man who sleeps with another man's wife. He who embraces her will not go unpunished. This is not even talking about when we die, you're going to go to hell. Forget that. The consequences starts right here. Health-wise. It's like having sex with another man. If you have sex with a woman that has been with another man, you're having sex with those men she's been with. Why do you think Joseph wanted to put Mary away? Matthew 1:18 and 19. Why do you think Jacob never had sex with his wife Bilhah again? Why do you think the Most High said, if you marry a wife and she was not a virgin, put her away? He said it twice. Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21. Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21. Deuteronomy 24 verse 1. Verse 29, Proverbs chapter 6:29. So is it with the man who sleeps with another man's wife. He who embraces her will not go unpunished. There are men today, who will be laughing at what I'm talking about, what I'm saying right now. Especially men who are not keeping the commandments. They will never accept this. And they will keep on having sex with women like this. To which, what am I going to say? Go ahead. Maybe in the next 10 years, the next 15 years, the next 20 years, you begin to see the health consequences. And of course, they're not going to tell you at the hospital what's wrong with you because they don't know. You have destroyed your vessel. You've messed up your vessel. So that's Proverbs chapter 6. There's somewhere else I could have shown you in the book of Corinthians. There's a place in the book of Corinthians I could have shown you. I don't know who is watching this. There might be a true child of the Most High. There may be a true child of the Most High who is watching this, and you're hungry for this information. You want to learn more. That's why, if I think of keeping these places out and not mentioning them, I feel a little bit, kind of like guilty, because somebody might want to. You should know these things. You should know the scriptures. You should know the scriptures. We all should know them. So it's so clear. And in the past, I used to like stay away. My only reason to not commit adultery in the past, was because of, oh yeah, you're going to go to hell. But now I have so much understanding of the biological damage that happens when a man lay with a woman who has been with other men. It's so destructive, and the most it happens immediately. So we don't the consequences comes down the line. All right, let me show you the last place. Let's go to First Corinthians chapter 6. That's the last place I'm going to show on this. First Corinthians. That's one of the places, but let me just show you this, because I don't know who is listening, and you may want to know this. So I'll just bring this out too. There's no point in me hoarding this information and just hoarding it and not bringing it out. I'm not doing any service. I'll be contributing to the problem if I don't bring these things out. So First Corinthians chapter 6. The other one I read was Proverbs chapter 6. So this one is First Corinthians chapter 6. First Corinthians 6. I'm going to start from verse 12. First Corinthians chapter 6 from verse 12. Let's start from verse 15. First Corinthians chapter 6 from verse 15. Don't you realize that your bodies are actually part of Yahushua? Should a man take his body, which is part of Christ, and join to a prostitute? Never. And don't you realize that if a man join himself to a prostitute, he becomes one body with her? I'm not sure if you heard what I just read. You can read it yourself. Remember what I said before. I just said this earlier. If I have sex with a woman who has been with other men, it's like I'm having sex with those men she's been with. That's like gay sex. That's literally like gay sex. I'm defiling myself. Why? Because she has the DNA of those men she's been with. Their DNA is inside of her. So me laying with her is going to defile me. I'll be defiling myself. I'm reading 1 Corinthians chapter 6 from verse 15 right now. Don't you realize that your body is actually part of Christ? Should a man take his body, which is part of Christ, and join to a prostitute? And by the way, remember that the Most High said in Deuteronomy chapter 22, the Most High said that if a girl lose her virginity before getting married, she's a prostitute and she must be killed. That's Deuteronomy 22, 13 to 21. Deuteronomy 22, 13 to 21. If you look at verse 21, you see it. Verse 20, 21. Verse 20, 21. Verse 20, 21. Deuteronomy 22. Deuteronomy 22, 20, 21. Okay. Please, can you do me a favor and send just put something on the chat if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Because I got a call that came in. If you're watching, I want to know that I'm still live. The call came in at the wrong time. Can you please put something on the chat if you can still hear me? If you can hear me, my brothers and sisters, just put something on the chat. Because I'm not sure if the program will still be on, if I get a call or something. If you can hear me, just put something on the chat so I can go on to finish up this place in 1 Corinthians. That's the last place I'm going to show you. If you can hear me, just put something on the chat. If not, then I'm going to close here. It's unfortunate that that call had to come in, and I'm not sure if the call had interrupted the stream or not. I'm not sure. That's why I want to confirm from you. Just put something on the chat, like you can hear me. If you can hear me, just let me know you can hear me. Okay, I can hear you. Okay, thank you so much, Tessie. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's just round this up. It says, verse 16. Don't you realize that if a man join himself to a prostitute, he becomes one body with her? For the scriptures say, the two are united into one. Verse 17. Verse 17. The person who is joined to Yah is one spirit with him. Verse 18. This is a warning to men. Verse 18. Run from sexual sin. No other sin so clearly affects the body as this one. You see what I'm saying? That's why I told you in the past, I can actually recall the women that I've been with, like whom I have had raw sex with and defiled myself. There's maybe, I think it's like 2 or 3 in the past. And knowing these things now, I feel devastated. I swear, I feel devastated because I didn't know. And I'm pretty sure that those women did not know either. They did not know. I did not know. So Hosea 4:6 was manifesting in our head. Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. I didn't know this. If I had known this, I wouldn't have done it. I would have kept myself, but I didn't know this. I did not know. And so are those women too. They did not know what they were doing. We were all born and raised in Gentile system, and we thought that, boyfriend is what you do, dating is what you do. You can have sex with whoever you like. That's the evil ideology that the Gentiles have given us. Sexual revolution from France, So I didn't know these things. So verse 18 says, and this is what I'm trying to do now. I'm pretty much living my life as you see here in verse 18. I'm running. I have had 2 women in the past who offered me themselves. I've had a situation where she was a friend of mine. She was a friend of mine. I was in California and she was in Texas. I'm not going to mention much about her because I don't want to reveal her identity. And she's not even a lawkeeper. So I was a lawkeeper. That was like, some years ago. And I was beginning to keep the law. And she came from Texas to California. She came to receive some award because of the kind of work that she was doing or whatever she was doing. She came to I picked her up from the airport. I took her to her hotel. And then on the day of the award, she called me early to come and pick her up from the hotel and take her back to the hotel where she was staying, because the award was at a hotel. I think it's like Hilton Hotel or something, or Sheraton Hotel, whatever that is, or Radisson, one of those hotels. That's where they did the award. So I picked her up. I took her back to her hotel. And as soon as we came into her hotel room, she quickly ran into the bathroom, took off her clothes, she quickly changed and came back into the room. And then she was wearing something very, very tiny, like this short knicker that she was wearing. And she dressed in a sexually provocative way. And then she began to make interest. And I was like, no, I have to go. She's like, no, you can't leave me here. I don't want to sleep here alone. You have to stay here with me. And then before you know it, she's trying to drag me to the bed. And she's trying to she's trying to do all that stuff. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And I was wearing my fringes, actually. I had my fringes on. And she tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. I refused. And of course, she became angry. So I left the hotel. I left. The next day, she went back to the airport and flew back to Texas. And about a day or 2 later, she called me and she was like, "I'm so sorry. I apologize. I know you're talking about the Bible, but I didn't really know that you're really serious. I thought you're just like other pastors." Because, usually when you offer a pastor something like that in private, they usually would take that, they would take it. So she's like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I have so much respect for you now. You know, I have so much respect, you know, for you. I didn't know that you're going to. And I'm embarrassed, you know. She just apologized. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. I totally understand. It's just that I can't take that kind of offer right now. But it was in a hotel room. It was just she and I in that place. If not because of the commandment, I would have taken that offer. Did I want to do what she wanted me to do? Of course, I wanted to do it. In terms of my body, like I really wanted to do it. I really, really, really wanted to do it. So I've had 2 incidents like that, 2. And they both happened in a hotel room where women will offer themselves to me. And I say no. It has happened twice. But before that, I've been defiling myself. I've defiled myself in the past. You know, I've defiled myself, which I do regret so much. I have so much regret within myself for doing that, because even now I don't even know, like, I think that health wise I injured myself, because that's really what it is. You know, when you do something like this, when you have sex with someone that have had with a woman that has had sex with other men, you're destroying yourself. So I don't know, like I haven't done it like a lot, but I know at least 2 or 3. And you know, a woman who is willing to do something like that with me, she could do it with other people. All the other stuff I've done I did with protection, usually do it with condom. So I'm not really counting those, but I know that condom also breaks. They tell you in the packet of the condom that it does break. It's not 100% guarantee, and I'm pretty sure something might be getting through. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure that condom is not 100% safe. Even in the pack, it will tell you that it's not 100% safe, you know. So, but the ones that I did not use it, I know for a fact that I defiled myself. That is for sure. And I feel devastated, honestly. I wish I could just press a button, rewind and go back and not do it, you know. So 1 Corinthians chapter 6 from verse 18. Run from sexual sin. No other sin so clearly affects the body as this one does. For sexual immorality is a sin against your own body. Don't you realize that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, who lives in you and was given to you by Elohim? You do not belong to yourself, for Elohim bought you with a high price. So you must honor Elohim with your body. So this is it, my brothers and sisters. That's part of the reason why I would rather just stay and be with myself, just be by myself. If I cannot 100% be sure that the person I want to marry is a virgin, if I can prove it, if I'm not sure, I'm not gonna do it. And if I ever, because as I am, you know, I've been by myself for years now, without like any sexual, like physical sexual contact with a woman or with a man, with nobody. And, you know, just like I expect the woman to be pure, I myself must also keep myself pure. So this is not something like I'm not going to be going out there and be messing up myself and then coming back and bringing my body back to a woman who has been keeping herself. So I have to also keep myself pure. And if I can do it now, if I'm doing it now, when I have nobody, I will do it when I have somebody. So the point is, when you truly understand this study, when you understand everything I just explained, then you understand the importance of keeping yourself. There's a particular video which I'm going to see if I can show you. It's going to be tough to show you this video because I have to dig. I have to dig deep to find it. But let me see if I can find it, because I would like you to hear from this woman. I'm telling you that there's a health risk. There are health risks when we engage in this sexual activities. Okay, so bear with me. I'm gonna go into my gallery to go look for this video right now. Okay. I didn't know I was gonna be doing this study today. So if I knew I was gonna be doing this study, I would have had these videos out. So just bear with me. Let me try and see if I can find it. So let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me. Okay, I'll come right here. I'm gonna go to biblical marriage. Okay, I'm gonna try to there's a particular, oh, there we go, here. Oh, that was easy. Okay, listen to this woman. Listen to this woman. So just listen carefully to what she's gonna say. Okay, so I'm showing you this as a witness. Just listen.
Sperm is an alien to a woman's body, and when sperm enters woman's body, her immune system rises to attack it. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system, and sperm survives. But woman's body has memory, and every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack and says, oh, it's husband, we'll just stand back. But can you imagine how damaging it is if a woman has multiple partners? It has a very damaging effect on her immune system. And can you imagine how damaging it is in the area of anal sex? Can be devastating to the immune system.
Okay, I'm going to play this one more time. Just one more time.
Sperm is an alien to a woman's body, and when sperm enters woman's body, her immune system rises to attack it. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system, and sperm survives. But woman's...
Okay, so this is similar to what we saw in the study I showed you out of UK. From that university. So the man's sperm has power to suppress the woman's DNA and suppress her system and actually changes her behavior according to that study. What this woman is telling you here is that a woman has like a memory in her body. So the first time she has sex, her body will record that first sperm that comes into her body. That foundational sperm, that first seed that comes into her body will record it. And if it does come back again, her body will recognize it and stand down. But if another man's sperm comes in, the body will also know that this is another man's sperm. So let's keep going.
Body has memory, and every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack and says, oh, it's husband, we'll just stand back. But can you imagine how damaging it is if a woman has multiple partners? It has a very damaging effect on her immune system. And can you imagine how damaging it is in the area of anal sex? Can be devastating to the immune system.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I like to show these things because, if I say it, they say that a prophet has no honor among his people. You're not going to take it seriously. If you hear it from me, I've shown it to you from scriptures. I've shown it to you from a Gentile, from their university. The bottom line here is let's stay away from those sects. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know it's going to be hurtful. You're going to be hurt if I say this. It's going to be painful. But if you live with a man, and that man was not the man that took your virginity, you've been with other men in the past before you started living with this man. Stop having sex with him. Stop having sex with him. Seriously. Stop doing it. You're destroying yourself. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. You could take this woman's video. It's on TikTok. Or I can send it to you. Show it to him. Explain to him that biblically, biologically, the first man you were with was your husband. That he is not your husband. My sister, if you keep on having sex with this man, you're destroying yourself. This is why we die we die in such, like the way we're dying today. We don't live long anymore. We don't live long anymore compared to our grandfathers and grandmothers. They lived to be 100, 90 something, 100. Look at us. They were dying this cancer, this, cancer that, cancer that, cancer this, cancer that, cancer this, cancer that, cancer this, cancer that, cancer this, cancer that, cancer. That's what's happening to us. We don't live long anymore. This is devastating for the men. It's devastating for the women. So same thing with a man. If you are a man, I didn't plan on doing this study. I just came here to do the law of the day. And I came across that place in Deuteronomy 24. That's what led to this study. So I didn't even know I was still going to be on doing this study right now. I'm going to be very blunt. If you're a man and you live with a woman and she lost her virginity to another man, she's been with a man or other men in the past, stop having sex with her. You're killing yourself. You're destroying yourself. Now, I do realize, you know how, like, when you talk to cigarette smokers, I don't know if you've talked to someone that smokes. There are those who smoke cigarette, right? Some of them, you tell them that smoking cigarette is not good for their health. When you tell them that smoking is not good for their health, what do they normally say? They will tell you, we're all gonna die. Just leave me alone. We're all gonna die. At the end of the day, we're all gonna die. My grandpa smoked to be 100. My grandma smoked to be 100. At the end of the day, we're all gonna die. That's how they talk. Some of them talk like this. So I do realize that there are some of us who will say, yeah, brother, I get what you're saying, but, I'm not going to put away my wife. I'm not going to put away my husband. Well, like those that smoke cigarette that you want to stop smoking, that is destroying their lungs. They tell you that, they know somebody who has been smoking and the person is 100 years old. Whenever a smoker gives you that kind of an argument, what do? There's nothing you can say. Like, you're telling them that smoking is destroying their lungs. They're telling you that that it doesn't matter. So I know that some of you live with a woman, you've been with her for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. You've been living together. And then you find out this study. You find out about this information. You might try to excuse yourself and make excuses. Understand that you're doing this to yourself. There are health consequences. Okay? I may be crazy, right? This woman on this video, is she crazy too? Those university in England that I showed you the study that they did, are they crazy too? The Most High telling you to stay away from a woman if she's been with other men, is the Most High crazy too? The chances that the Most High is crazy, those Gentiles who are in England are crazy, this woman in this video is crazy, Brother Tobiah is crazy, man, the chances is very low. So a word is enough for the wise. Don't destroy your body for temporary pleasure. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, from verse 18, run from sexual sin. No other sin is so clearly affects the body as this one. So yeah, it's very devastating. I totally understand. This is a very tough thing to swallow, because this has to do with emotion. The idea that your husband is not your husband or your wife is not your wife is devastating. But you have to also, at some point we have to mourn. After mourning, we accept reality. Like as the example I gave you in the book of Ezra. In the book of Ezra, when the Israelites married foreign women in Babylon and had kids with them, they mourned. After mourning and everything, they actually cried. After crying and mourning, they had to put those women away and their children, because those women cannot be their wives. So, if you do have any question, you're welcome to give me a call. If you have any question, you're welcome to call. I do explain this thing further. There's actually a further explanation in the commandment book. You can go to my website, commandmentschool.com, commandmentschool.com, and download for free the commandment book. In that commandment book, I explain these things in details with pretty much almost every scripture you saw I read today. Almost every scripture I read today, I also wrote those scriptures out in the commandment book. So if you download that commandment book for free, you go inside, look for the area about biblical marriage, and you will see the section that talked about this topic. You could give it to somebody to read, and you can discuss with them. If you have any question and you would like you and I to discuss it, you're welcome to give me a call. So all praises to the Most High. I thank the Most High for His love and His kindness. Thank the Most High for opening our eyes to realize this thing. Like as I said, we are all victims, both men and women. We are all victims to this because we did not know. We were not taught, and we did not know. And we end up doing things that we are now regretting. Like me, I do regret. I've defiled myself, and I do regret it. I have defiled my body. But I'm determined not to do it again, because now I understand the consequences. So this is not something you're going to ignore. After hearing this, you're going to lay down. If you're a woman, you're going to lay down and allow this man that you've been living with to get on top of you and continue putting himself inside of you. He's defiling himself, and it's also going to affect you. Like this woman said, I'm not the one that said it. She said it. It's going to be affecting you like she said. So it's going to affect your health if you do it. And if you are a man, you, after listening to this and going through all this study, you go ahead and continue to lay down with your woman and get on top of her, you're defiling yourself. You have been warned. So in fact, I'm going to close with Proverbs chapter 1. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. From verse 24, let's see what it says. I'm going to close with this, which is a warning from the Most High. It's a warning from the Most High. It says, this is a warning that the Most High is giving us, and this is one of the things that keeps me away from committing sin like this. It says, I called you so often. Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. I called you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. You ignored my advice and rejected the correction I offered. So I will laugh when you are in trouble. I will mock you when disaster overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm. When disaster engulfs you like a cyclone. And anguish and distress overwhelm you. Verse 28. When they cry for help, I will not answer. Though they anxiously search for me, they will not find me. For they hated knowledge and choose not the fear of Yah. They rejected my advice and paid no attention. When I corrected them. Therefore, they must eat the bitter fruit of living their own way, choking on their own schemes. For the simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency. But all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm. This is it. This is a nail to the coffin. I don't want to say more. I don't want to say any more. I don't want to say any more. The Most High has said it all. Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. Proverbs chapter 1 from verse 24. So, the ball is in your court. All praises to the Most High. If you have any question, you're welcome to contact me.